Time has come once again to speak as co-creators in Magic Do. I'm Daniel Dubois.
I'm Michaela Stone, and we are your guides on your journey into the heart of the primordial.
Welcome to Season 9, Episode 13. I got nothing. There's no title.
Well, episode 13 is a good title.
Yes, actually, you know what? That is a good title.
Yeah, and my favorite number.
Yeah. Yes, that's true.
Uh-huh. So there you go.
So, lots of energy and words waiting to come out. I don't know what they are, but there's energy.
Well, I have a curiosity, so let's start
All
there.
right.
You
Yes.
mentioned, so for the listener, I am putting out a summit tomorrow, which by the time you hear this will
Maybe a
have
week
been
ago.
out.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's already on its way. But there's 22 speakers, and I recorded with each of them. So that's 22 hours, maybe 23 when you add the little extras in, of talking, conversations. And Danielle has been the stalwart chap that went through all of that, putting them on YouTube, which is the location for the summit. And I'm so glad he did, because I think we might be getting next solstice if I had to do that part too.
Right.
But my curiosity here is, what did you get from listening to all the things? Because I had everything from a lawyer, a doctor, a couple of dominatrixes. I still don't know what the plural is. Witches, priestesses, like there was every kind of person in there. And even a guy, very brave, very delightful
Yeah.
fella who has spent years now empowering women and promoting women's
Right.
voices. So he was an excellent contributor to the whole thing. But I'm really curious, what leapt out at you? What did you get from that?
There are two things that left out to me the most that are still in my mind. The first thing that really left out of my mind was, can't remember the speaker. To say she's a brunette with long hair will not help because there
I'll
was a
just
bunch of
start
them.
talking and I'll probably know
Yeah.
who.
So the discussion was about when women are in their fertile phase, the hormones make them more docile or more compliant. And then
Right.
once you hit their menopause, that goes away. And that stuck with me. One of the reasons it stuck with me is because I'm a big believer in you have to understand the resources in your environment. I'm
Hmm.
not trying to talk about women as resources, but to be clinical about it, if you're looking at what's in your environment, you should understand it. And as men who do not have that compliance because of our different hormones, we should be aware of it. We should have at some point become really aware of it. There's an awareness, but it's not up to my liking, if you
Hmm.
will. And so there's a lot of misunderstandings because of it. And I don't know how many women are aware of the fact that that's the case as well. But
Well, it's a funny thing. First of all, I think it's Ankara Rose that may have said
it
that.
might have been.
Yeah. And I think women don't realize it because how do you know different to what you've always had,
Right,
right? So you don't know that what you're experiencing is different until you reach the crone
right.
stage, postmenopausal, and then you get to the point where, wait a minute, I don't have any fucks to give about this. And I'm very
Yes.
judicious about the ones I do have and where I'm going
Mm,
to put them. And if you really focus in on that, then you start to realize what the differences are.
right.
And so it takes, I think you don't know until you're the other side of menopause, but that's one of the reasons I think why society is so ageist, especially for women.
Mm,
Men can be grey-haired, they can be bald, they can be half and half, they can be whatever the hell they like, and it's perfectly fine. But for a woman, it's like, oh no, don't get old. That's a terrible look.
mm,
On the other hand, if you do anything to prevent it, Botox and such, then you're also, oh no, look, you had work done. That's terrible. So you cannot win when you have birthdays.
mm,
Why? And I think it's to keep people away from older women, away from listening to what you have to say as an older woman, because we know so much shit now
mm,
that the younger ones don't know. And so there's a lot that can be passed on. If I knew at
mm.
30 what I know now, oh man, I would have made some different decisions. Woo! Tell you what, I would have done some things differently. And some of that is just life experience, but some of that
Right,
is definitely the hormonal shift of, oh, hey, look, there went all my fucks, and I'm just not going to be giving them left and right anymore.
right. So where it started, like kind of where it was sitting with me was like, okay, so as males, we basically start off with no flex. Well, not that we don't have no flex to give, but we have the ability to go into no flex to give mode very
Mhm.
quickly. But men tend not to be taught things. We tend to have to kind of discover it on our own. There is, depending on where you are, and some cultures do make an effort, but generally in Western society, you're left on your own as a male to figure your stuff out, or you figure it out in groups of friends and stuff like that. But you don't get a direct, this is how you should behave kind of a thing. It's usually indirect. I mean,
Except when you're very young and the unwary parent, including moms, will teach little boys, don't cry, girls cry.
well,
Don't do this, that's girly. And so boys are taught what not to like about women, what not to like about girls, right? Because whatever you do, don't do that, it's girly.
but
That's
that's not a
that's
question of not liking women. That's a question of, because I'll give you the male perspective on this one.
But
If I
hang
had to
on,
go
hang on.
kill a
Let me
wolf,
let me
go
let me
ahead.
just go there for a
Yeah, yeah.
second first,
Okay.
and then you can
All right.
put yours. So if you were taught from the get-go not to be a certain way
Right.
because it belongs to a particular group of people, then the underlying message is that's not good for you. It's them, right? That's something they do. You're better than that. You don't do that. And that's when it comes to showing emotions. That's when it comes to wearing pink, playing with dolls, whatever. Oh no, don't do that. That's girly. The overall message is teaching men what not to do because it belongs to females. There's nothing in there that says, hey, girls are really cool. They have all kinds of things that's good about them. There's no message in there. So when you're starting on a very young, impressionable mind, that is important. And it's the parents that are responsible for putting that onto the next generation. So this is where cycle breaking needs to happen. And I'm not blaming one group here like men or women because both have passed that on. This is the patriarchal system. This is how it gets passed on. So that's my 10 cents worth. Now
Right.
you go for yours.
Oh, well, because what I was going to say is, so it's not a dislike of women. It's a women occupy their role, if you want to look at it that way, and men occupy their roles, and the attributes don't switch over sometimes. Like if I have to
There's
go
that
into life
too, but
as,
it's
yeah,
there's that too, but it's also girls are less than. That is definitely the message. Men can have, or boys, they
right,
can be angry and they're passionate, right? Like they're driven and they're passionate. But for a woman, she's overreacting, over emotional, and all the rest of it. And the same emotion is given different attributes depending on who's experiencing it. But I would argue the whole thing is bullshit because well, you can feel angry, I can feel
right,
angry. Why is your anger different to mine? Why would mine be different to yours? It's an emotion and humans have emotions.
yeah,
So the fact that we separate them out, boys don't cry, girls don't get angry, it's like, what? drivel have we been passing on
Yeah.
to our kids? My God, slap yourself up the forehead right now. That is a terrible thing to do to kids,
Yeah. I was
but
gonna
it's
say,
very
like,
commonplace.
I was fortunately grew up in a different environment than most other people grow up in.
Right.
Women had
And
their age, and that was just expected.
and the guy who's
Yeah.
in the summit, he was raised by his mother and his grandmother.
Yeah.
So he has a different perspective as well, and he has a profound respect for women. But he was raised in a unique situation by two women who obviously gave him a good experience of what it's like to be around women. Um, you know, not everybody got that, but just the thought that men can do this and women can do that, just that idea, you're allowed to feel this way, you're allowed to feel that way is mind blowing. And we've been doing it for how long? But when you're younger and you're in the parenting age and
Hmm.
stage, you don't have time to think about that stuff. You don't have time to look at it and say, "Hey, hang on a minute, that's not good. That's not healthy." You're just too busy
Right.
doing it.
Yeah. And the other thing I learned was, first of all, Lilith tells me not to say it, so we'll see.
Willa says not to say it.
Yeah. But
Okay, you're gonna have to say it anyway. Come on.
so
Give me
rage has
tea.
a very important function.
Uh-huh.
And part of it is because you and Kali, the one who's talking about the portals, it's
Yes.
Kali, sorry, Kali, right? That's how she pronounces it. So
Yeah.
Kali, talking about grief and rage being part of the same thing. But rage is, you can either express the rage because you don't want to express the grief, or you can express the grief because you're afraid to express the rage. Part of rage, this is what I got from listening to pretty much everything, and kind of Lilith kind of nudged it that way, is that rage in this particular case is to expel the grief or the grievances. It's to push you to the next level you need to get to. That's the better wording. Push you to the next level you need to get to. So now she's rolling her eyes, but she's like, go ahead. So what I was going to say is, I don't think you guys raged enough.
I agree. And we even comment one or two
Yeah,
places we commented on that when I was with Elena Rigo, who
right,
is High Priestess of the Coven of Lilith. She said, "Look at us. Even as we're talking about rage, we're smiling. We can't help it because we're told, we're taught, conditioned to soften what we're putting out there." And I recorded with her fairly early on. So
right,
as I recorded with other people, I was noticing this, like,
right,
oh my God, yes, we keep doing this. It keeps coming up. And you talk about rage and fury and how everything's wrong and all the injustices and what have you. And we talk about it in a way that's detached from the emotion of it.
right,
And I think the reason that's happening is because we are still not connected to it properly. We haven't fully reached that connection, like the thinking of tapping a maple tree, right? The
right,
tap is there, but we just don't have the sucker in the bark yet. It's like we're almost there, but it's yeah.
right.
And yeah, the fury is fuel for aligned action. That's part of the title. And
Well, yes, that's
and
what I was going to
exactly.
say. The
But we
push,
gotta get to
the
the
rage,
fuel line.
yes, the rage to me, Lilith is like just rolling her eyes at me, going, whatever, say whatever the hell you want, since you're saying it, is that I don't feel the push to that aligned action happened necessarily. That rage didn't get quite there, that it needed to
Uh-huh.
connect to the aligned action. Now, don't get me wrong. I learned a lot from, like, this is not a this is not a critique. It's just a something for the emotional
No,
connection to me wasn't there
your
quite
point
yet
is
to get that
valid.
aligned action.
No, your point is
Yeah.
valid. And it was really hard to try and make that connection. It was so hard. And there were
Yeah.
people who, women who were strongly expressing their
Hmm.
experience, but it still wasn't like the tap wasn't
Right.
in the bark yet. And I think a big part of that is the fear of what happens when you do that.
right? Because
Are
I'll
you
be
just going to sit there and scream for an hour? Could
well, because I'll
be.
say the funny part was I raged more, I think, listening to the videos.
Cool. So that's effective then. Like
Because
if the
I
videos have that
actually
effect, that's
I
great.
got rage enough to get to aligned action
But that's
into
fantastic.
it. Yeah,
Even if we couldn't do it in the moment, if it got you there, then
right.
that's it.
Well, and that's kind of why Lila was like, you don't have to talk about it because it's like you got there, you got because it's like with this podcast, we start off with the topic, but we say what needs to be said versus the podcast having the ideal words and the script and the stuff, but it's the words that promote the or it's
Right.
the discussion that promotes the whatever we're trying to say.
Well, if it was causing rage for
Yeah,
you and you were raging, then I am thrilled. That was the whole point is to
right,
have people get something from that and respond to that. Something else I got from it, because I learned from every single
right.
person I talked to, which was great, absolutely phenomenal. But in the room where there's the two
Yeah,
dominatrices, but the younger one of the two that I talked with,
yeah,
what I really got from her was she was probably one of the least judgmental people
right.
I've ever had a conversation with. This woman literally accepts whomever, wherever they're
Yeah,
at, with no judgment on she's not dissing them for anything, she's not thinking less of them.
right.
She was absolutely the least judgmental person.
Yeah,
And I was fascinated
yes,
because I aspire to be like that, but I know I'm not where she is.
yeah. Well,
Her ability to just
yeah,
take a person where they're at with no thought
right.
first that's like less than or
Mm,
oh you freak, you're into this or oh you do that or you look like this or you say that. There was nothing like that coming from her at all.
right. Well, that's what
I
I was
was
going to
in
say,
awe.
right? Because I actually quoted her in a conversation after that. So,
Right? She's amazing. I mean, they
yeah,
both are, but my God, I just sat there raptured. Just,
yeah.
wow.
Actually, the just to say it, the what I had said, people had a lot of interest in. When I said where I got it from, it kind of got a bit of a reaction, but the
What
faces
did
kind
you
of changed.
say?
Yeah, we were talking about, the pandemic and online stuff and being like peers and how it affects people. And I was discussing how, well, you know, young guys now don't have, that same charisma, that same whatever. They don't know how to approach women and stuff like that as a side effect of, not having face to face and being afraid to be recorded and stuff like that. And everyone's like, oh, yeah, that's interesting because that's kind of what we were talking about. And then when I said where I got it from, everyone was kind of like, oh,
You
and I'm
see,
like,
they
listen,
went
man,
straight to judgment. They went
right.
straight to judgment.
But I was actually excited to listen to hers because one thing I learned from Dominatrix a long time ago, having had the Playboy channel, is just how much insight they have.
Uh-huh.
And when she brought up, right, like you can take nutrition and you can become a personal trainer, but no one talks to you about sexual health. And I thought that
Right.
was amazingly fascinating about that discussion.
Right. And if, as you may well
Yeah.
remember, as she said that, I'm like, wait a minute,
Yes.
holy cow. Because I've been
You
a
and I had the same
nurse.
reaction.
Yeah, I've been a nurse, I've been a personal trainer, all these things, and she's absolutely right. You don't get anything about sexual anatomy, sexual
Yeah.
health, nothing like that. And yet it's important to every single person, more
Right.
so than your weight or the number on the scale, but we all kind of ignore it to the point that we don't
Yeah.
even realize we're ignoring it.
Yes.
And my conversation with her was mind blowing for me. I was just like, damn, she's bringing up so many things that I
Right.
just hadn't thought of. And then the other woman in that room, Lorna,
Yes.
she had her poem that was
Yes.
powerful, that was raging.
Yeah.
And she's actually the teacher of the other
Yes.
one. Fascinating, both
Yeah.
of them fascinating. So if anybody sort of says, how do I get this summit? Just contact me and you can get access to
Yeah.
it, even though it's later.
Yeah.
But don't be put off by the labels. of these two women because
Well,
actually you would be missing out on some
right.
really deep treasure.
That's one of the things I learned a long time ago. If you, well, it's one of the leftovers from one of the things that my trickster teacher taught me was to never ignore a source of wisdom, right?
Right. But that's
So,
part of that judgmentalism, right?
yeah,
We do. The people you spoke to all did
right.
that with their,
Well,
oh,
and that's
well,
the thing, right?
came from there.
Because I forget sometimes with people, I'm like, they must be so used to me by now. I can just pretty much bring anything up, right? And then it's like, all right, yeah, okay, that's right. I'm like that. They're not.
Right, they're
Yeah,
not there yet.
yeah,
But that's a perfect example
mm,
of the difference between her, Lady
right,
Saphira,
hmm,
and how she shows up, like
right,
just open to who are you, what do you need? Like let's have a conversation. And she's just not prejudging anybody.
right,
Whereas the people you spoke to, you're giving them the
mm,
wisdom and they like the wisdom,
yeah,
but then they dislike the source
right,
without knowing anything about the source other than the
right,
label.
yeah.
And that's
Like,
like,
yeah,
okay.
it was funny because like no words were said. You could just see it in, but the close where the what is it? The subtitles on the face spoke
Uh-huh.
everything, right?
Oh, and you can feel the
Yeah,
energy withdraw.
yeah,
When somebody disapproves, you can,
yeah,
I mean, I get that a lot these
mm,
days because I'm so far out of the broom closet that,
yeah.
it's it's really clear
No,
that
I
I'm
do. I love
away.
that saying.
Right? The broom
Yeah,
closet?
yeah,
Me too. But I'm so far out of that closet that it's like I get pushback from people.
yeah,
In fact, the doctor that you and I were talking
right,
about earlier, who I won't mention
mm,
the name of right now, she really didn't like it when I mentioned the summit. And she said, "Oh, I don't like that at all. What are you
right,
talking about? Which, it's
hmm,
all that woo energy stuff." And just dismiss out of hand
mm,
because I don't know what it is, therefore it's bad.
mm,
That's the level so many people are at, most people. And then what I discover is a dominatrix is not going to be at that level. They are far in advance of the rest of
right.
us when it comes to being non-judgmental.
Well, and you have to be. There was actually a. I can't remember the name of the book. It's part of a series of books. The author is Mercedes Lackey. I love her writing. But so it's a fantasy novel, and there's a profession in it called a Kestrashern, something like that. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right
Okay.
from what I read. But they're like basically part healer, part beautician, part sex worker, and part something else. I'm trying to think of what else it is. And the main character, who's male, is one of them.
Okay.
And he's part of it because of his immense empathy, like his capacity, like his actual like empathy power, ability, that kind of thing. It actually helps him deal with it because this world, while it's a fantasy world, only certain parts of the world really see that aspect of it. So there are parts of the world that just don't believe any of this stuff exists. They look at it with
Oh,
very
like this one.
right. So this was the problem for the main character because when he was growing up, he thought there was something really wrong with him, right? But it was only when he got to kind of the mystical side of it that he was like, "Oh, there's nothing wrong with me. I was just picking up everyone else's issues," you know.
Right.
And then so when he got taken in with these people, you know, then he got better and he became a cash Sharon. But they do a lot, but there's a lot of no judgment in that profession because she really talks about it. Like there's a rivalry between two generals, one's a male, one's a female. And so he goes to see him to make Jedwin jealous. So
Hmm.
there's like because the while the military recognizes that job as really important for morale for the soldiers, plus they're also like secondhand healers. If the healers are overwhelmed, they can kind of send them there too, because they'll do the bandaging and all the other stuff, like a lot of professions were before. Like
Hmm.
think barbers, right? Like barbers used to do surgery and the
Well, good
dentistry and all that
reminder.
kind of stuff before it became accepted into medicine. But so they were kind of like that. They were secondhand healers as well as doing all the morale and all that kind of stuff. And so they talk about that a lot. and it's a very compelling story to read, even though,
I I'm
but
gonna look
it's
this
the
up.
raw open-mindedness they have to have in that job and the understanding because the main character, whenever they encounter someone, like they kind of give you an understanding of what the other characters are because you're seeing it through that person, that main character's lens.
I love it. I'm gonna look
Yeah,
this author up. And what you're making me in mind of right now is the goddess Inanna,
right.
also known as Ishtar,
Hmm.
because the goddess Inanna was also she was goddess of above, like this world.
Right.
She became the goddess of below when she went through the seven layers to the underworld and was killed,
Mm.
hung on a hook for 3 days, and then emerged again alive to the upper world. Where do we find that
Yes.
story? And Inanna's story is millennia older
Mm.
than the currently
Right.
accepted
Yes.
version. But Inanna was also the goddess of prostitution.
Right.
And sex was considered very differently in those days based on the writings about Inanna. So it became taboo when people needed it to be.
Mm.
When
Yeah.
control, it became an issue of control. And, women aren't supposed to enjoy sex, but men can. And this kind of nonsense. Again, why would one human have
Right.
the abilities that another human
Right.
doesn't have? Other than giving birth, I really think that is unnecessary to make a distinction
Right.
of you have this emotion, you don't have that.
Mm.
You can enjoy this, but you can't,
Right.
etc., etc. But if you go all the way back to Inanna, prostitutes were part of the parades. Prostitutes were part of the whole, celebration and everything.
Yeah.
We're going to celebrate the feast of Inanna, etc. This was normal part of life, and we've really subjugated that area of life, and I think it's because it's so powerful, and there are many magical rites that involve
Right.
sex, and look at tantric Buddhism, for example. Um, look at pagan rites. Like there are so many different
Right.
areas of worship that are not Abrahamic that basically include sex as part of the deal because we are all sexual humans. That's
Right.
kind of necessary in order to be on the planet, right? So we reproduce that way. So it has to be an important part of who we are. Um,
Yes.
and yet we're so repressed around that
Yeah.
people need to seek out a dominatrix, somewhere where they can, you know, be who they really want to be, just kind of let loose
Right.
in whatever way. And it was interesting to me that she was talking about, high-powered
Yes.
CEOs and what have you, that just they're in control all the time of everything, and they need somewhere to go where they are
Yeah.
not in control. They
Well,
can
see,
relinquish
and
it.
this ties perfectly back to Love is the Destroyer.
Yeah,
Think
there's
about the
there's so many
power that
ways
the
to look at
dominatrix
that.
has. And what is she basically doing? She's providing a space,
Yeah.
which is pretty much as much the act of love as you can give to someone is to make a space for them.
And literally there's nothing that is banned or barred.
Right. Although what I felt bad about, it kind of added to the rage, was how hard she had to go looking for her training.
Yes, that's trtrue too.
Yeah.
That's true too. Tell you what, if I didn't have like a dozen different things I'm working on right now, I think I'd add that training in because
Yeah.
it's there's a whole area of stuff I don't know about.
Yeah.
And
Well,
I don't like
and
that.
yeah,
I don't like that. I want to know what I'm missing.
and for a long time, like, and I mean a long time, like we're counting decades, it's always been something that bugged me. And it was funny because I think it was the first time I heard like someone in a position of authority say it was Muhammad Ali or Cassius Clay, if you prefer, for whoever. When he said,
Whatever.
because he objected to going to Vietnam, and he
Right.
made the statement of, why is it when someone wants to give pleasure to someone, they're bad. But when someone wants to go and kill someone, they're heroes, you know?
Wise words.
And I thought, and that kind of got me started. And then, yeah, it kind of branched into the whole idea of why is prostitution illegal? But, there's all these other violent forms of things you can do that aren't, or they aren't frowned upon,
Hmm.
or they're
Funnily
glorified
enough,
at least. Yeah.
I have a friend, haven't talked to him in a while simply because our
Right.
paths kind of moved in different directions. But this guy actually manages a brothel,
Right.
and his girlfriend, he works there,
Mm-hmm.
and they've been together a decade or so, something like that. Um, and to hear him talk about the work, the place, the
Right.
girls that are there, and so on, the women who are there, um, it's a very different perspective on the importance of the work
Right.
and its place in society. And
Mm-hmm.
I love listening to people like him talk because it's like, oh, hey, look at you normalizing this.
Yeah.
Why the fuck isn't it normal? Like, why is it not normalized anyway? Why do I have to listen to somebody normalize it and have that be novel, right? And
Yeah.
that's how messed up we are as a society. And we've been trained this way, we've been taught this way, and it's certainly not getting any better when you've got the evangelicals running
Right.
amok because, that's Handmaid's Tale.
Yeah.
Um, that's where that's going.
Yeah. Well, that's
We're
the thing,
moving in
right?
the wrong direction.
Yeah. And I find that's the thing. It's the constant destroying of everything that creates bonds,
Yes.
you know, that's happening. We hit a point where things were improving, and then, I mean, I can either just say, yeah, it's Reagan, because it ties to that point in history.
Oh,
That
Reagan
point in
did a ton of
history,
damage.
Reagan is the one who basically, whether he specifically did it or not, he is a pivotal figure in the downfall of all the growth that had been made.
Yep. Oh, he did a ton of damage. And I actually remember when he was elected, I was living in the UK at the time. I mean, I remember it
Mm-hmm.
vividly. And my thoughts when he was elected was, oh shit, they've put Mickey Mouse in the White House. We are done. And I was literally expecting nuclear war to break out any
Mm-hmm.
minute. And I was pretty young at the time, but I was like, I think we're done. Like as a
Yeah,
species, this act of electing him
right.
has finished us off. And I was a little surprised when the end times didn't happen. But what I now realize at this point is, oh, but they did begin.
Yeah, the ball
He
got rolling
did
for a
kick
lot
it
of
all
things.
off. So yeah, no, that's a big thing. The stuff we're seeing right now with the whole red hat
Mm,
nonsense is symptomatic of what was started then.
right,
This isn't the whole, revolution or anything good or bad. This is the outcome of
right,
that. So, if that bunch are priding themselves on breaking shit and turning things upside down,
right.
you're just the monkeys playing with the bananas that were thrown at you.
Yeah, it's funny. Like, because at the time, and I don't know if it's just me who perceived it this way, but I thought my view on it at the time was that Reagan basically just took credit for everything Gorbachev did, all the work Gorbachev put into bringing peace. Because like Gorbachev paid a huge price,
He
and
did,
Reagan
poor
just
bugger.
basically took the credit.
Yeah. No, Gorby, he really, yeah, I felt for him at the time.
Mm.
Like, I think he was the good guy and
Like,
he was trying to make good decisions and he got taken. He got taken big time.
well, I
But,
was gonna say, right? Everyone's making fun of the wine mark on his head, but yet he's the one doing all the legwork to
uh-huh.
bring peace. Like, and
And
then
again,
Reagan
it's
just
it's
says
that,
Mr. Gorbachev tear down that wall, and suddenly he's like he was the guy who brought the Soviet Union
right.
down.
Yeah, and that's so many things that he
Yeah,
did, and his partner in arms too, Margaret Thatcher. Do not get me started,
right.
because that's going to be a whole rant. Like that woman to
Mm,
me was evil incarnate. But I was living in the country where she was in charge and causing no end of harm
mm,
to people. So my perspective is definitely not the same as those who weren't living
Right.
through it.
Mm.
But if you were living where she was in charge, it was not okay. It was not cool at all. People outside of the country liked it, just like Trudeau. People
Right.
outside of the country think, oh, yeah, amazing. But people in the country,
Mm.
I beg to differ.
Yeah.
Different reasons, totally. But in her case, she was a bitch. Like, I'm just gonna put it out there. She was an absolute bitch. And between her and Reagan, they stitched us all up.
Yeah.
They did.
It's
And
interesting.
Nancy, don't forget Nancy, because she did a whole bunch too. She was the puppet master.
Right. I will always bring
So,
this line up because it amuses me. It's how does that go? Nancy Reagan was the best president the United States ever had. And then someone said, no, no, Nancy Reagan's astrologer was the best president the United States ever had.
right? And isn't it interesting how
Yeah.
astrology played a part there? Look at Hitler. Occult was a
Right.
big part there. The Russian czars and what have you, they used astrology.
Right.
There's some pivotal moments in history that have been impacted by the way that astrology was used, or something similar, some
Right.
similar version,
Well,
right? It's not the science itself or the woo
mm,
itself, depending on which side of the fence you're on.
right.
It was how it was used,
Right.
and that did make a difference.
Well, I was going to say, I remember I started having a, like, after the whole Reagan thing, and I started to notice how spirituality had kind of changed. A lot of the books were like gearing it towards money and stuff like that. And it was kind of like, because there was like a spiritual counter movement, but then it kind of got, use the expression Shanghai.
Co-opted?
Yeah, co-opted. That's what I'm looking for. And I remember reading a book, and somewhat, and one of the things that was said in it was the difference between a billionaire and a millionaire is an astrologer.
Mm, yeah.
Just to go on the astrology thing, keep going. So there was a lot of influence, even at that time. But I remember because, like, at that time, because I had known about Nancy Reagan's astrologer, like through it, because people would make comments about, she's running the country, and then other people would say, well, this is what she does, and you know, and then I think I'm a weird teenager, but anyway, because I was listening to that kind of stuff. But there's still a lot of, like, magic has still existed in modern times, even if people denied it. People in power were still accessing it, still trying to access it. That's why earlier on when we were talking, like at the beginning, I think one of our earlier episodes was about the flow, and that's when I had
Mhm.
talked about the whole track and field meet, and I made the comment, and that's me not knowing. Now imagine a whole group of, imagine a government or a whole big organization that has people on staff that knows how to use this. You know,
Mhm. Absolutely. Yeah. So magic
yeah,
is, and the various forms of methods to not attach to it, but tap into it, if you will.
right,
Um, all of these, you can diss them and call them woo and
right,
dismiss this all you like, and you'll be the one wearing the jester hat because
right,
everybody else who's aware that this stuff is actually more real than the things we're sold on,
right.
um, there's a big difference. And I've been learning a lot of that lately where it's one of the things I was in Lilith Coven earlier today, as I told you before we started
Mm-hmm.
recording, and we were doing some reflections on some of the things, and part of it was realizations, changes that have come into being fairly recently, and one of them is the shattering of the illusions
Right,
that really you thought you had your illusion shattered until they started shattering. And then it's like,
right,
oh, that's actually what it looks like. And there's layers and layers of that going on. And there's also duality plus plus plus, right?
right,
Where not only can this be the case, but also that, and look for the other possibilities. Whereas we're typically told it's this or it's that. What you can have one thing is true, the other things aren't.
right.
And that's one of the biggest lies that people buy into, and it feeds the
Yeah,
illusions
yeah,
that you then maintain, right? So this whole idea of, well, only this one thing is true, all the rest is rubbish. Um, ooh, no, no, that's a big mistake. And
Yeah.
when you can start to see that, when you start to really dive into your magical practice more and
Right.
see how much the fact that you thought you had your illusions under control or you thought you were shattering illusions was an illusion and there's more behind
Yeah.
it, right? It's now it starts to sound a little like, okay, what are you even saying? But I mean, I could tell from your face, you know
Yeah.
what I'm saying.
Oh,
And
I do because
it
that's been my
truly
last
is.
2 weeks. That's
Sorry,
been my last 2 weeks that that's been happening. Uh,
right?
you
It's a
think you
lot.
got it? You think you got it? Like, remember I had said I had mentioned, and then listeners might remember too. I think this was like an episode ago or a couple episodes ago, where I had said I had some stuff, and I don't know if I'm going to share it or not. Even that, I thought I had that figured out. Now, like, I got whole new dimensions to that too. That I'm not like
Exactly.
that. I'm still processing. I'm like,
I think every
yeah,
time we reach a point where we
mm,
think, got it,
yeah,
that's when all the goddesses start to laugh.
right,
They have a really good belly laugh because we're not even at the surface yet.
yeah, because like,
That's my impression, and I think
right,
doesn't matter how much we think we know and how much we think we see and we see through, there's so much more. And the fact that we're in that space is still an
hmm,
illusion.
yep. Like, because I've been through an accelerated pace lately, and it's just like every time I turn around, it's like, oh crap, I didn't take that into consideration. And oh crap, yeah, there's that. And oh,
Mhm.
I didn't notice this before, but now that I'm looking at it from this new lens, like, oh crap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I have to say, I'm at this stage, I'm looking at my life and saying, okay, I have a lot less life in front of me than I have
Mm,
behind me. And I'm really pissed about that because I've got a lot of things I need to work
yeah.
on. And I feel like I need to hurry up, but you can't hurry it up.
No.
But I'm like, no, 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 no. I needed to know this years ago so that I would have time to get further than I am
Yeah.
now. And of course, you can't change the trajectory, but it's bloody irritating because I
Yeah.
really, really have a lot to do. And there's no way I'm going to get through it, which means I'm definitely coming back to get going on the rest of it. But
Yeah.
er, like shit, I wish I'd started this when I was like 20 or something. And I was introduced to the
Yeah.
occult when I was 15, but I did not have anywhere near the information I needed. Not even
Right.
close. And to be
But that's
fair, I don't think those teaching me had it either.
well, that's what I was gonna say. It's kind of a thing that, well, this was my, if you will, my epiphany from this week was that, like we say, right? Magic is taking back your power. Well, magic is even more than that. Magic is remembering who you are.
Ah, I love the way
And
you said that.
now that statement, remember we talked about passing thresholds? Well, that statement means a whole different thing to me now
Uh-huh.
than it did before I passed that threshold. We've said it before, but it now means something completely different to me.
And as you said it, that just landed so
Yeah.
differently. And I think it's because you said, okay, we talk about taking back
Mm,
your power, but this is above that. This
yeah.
is another level. It's remembering who you are. And I'm like, oh, okay, boom, yes,
Right.
that, exactly that. I love the way you said it because it's
Mm,
so true. Again, it's one of those
yeah.
illusions where, okay, I'm taking back my power, and that's the important thing. Up to a point. And then
Mm,
there's that next level. And
yeah.
it's like, frack me running. There's so many levels. I haven't
Right.
got time for all of this.
Well, because last episode, I think it was last episode where I talked about ascending is inevitable. Just the force of the way life is, you'll ascend at some point. Even if it's 1,000 generations from now, you'll ascend.
Right.
What gets you to that ascension is knowing yourself. And so as you remember yourself, the more it accelerates your ascension.
Oh, the layers, the layers, the
Yes.
layers. Oh my God, the layers. Oh, I'm going to go and lie down after
Yeah.
this podcast and just wail.
Well, I was going to do that, but I've been busy with the summit. So In fact,
Oh my
I
God.
took a break yesterday because I probably could have had everything done if I hadn't taken a break. But it was just like my brain had to process stuff. It was just like I did the arranging to the alignment, and I did all these other freaking layers that are popping up, and it was just like okay, like because I had gotten like 8 hours of sleep, and then I took a 3 hour nap. That's how much processing I had to do. It was just like
Uh-huh.
okay, I got to take this stuff in, I got to process it, I got to just deal with it, and then I'll jump back onto some stuff. But it's like I got to deal with this before.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, there was a lot coming forward on that, which
yeah,
is, you know, for me, I feel really privileged to be the one doing the summit because
mm,
I get to talk to all these people and have the conversations. And I'm learning something every time I talk to somebody, which is amazing. But a big part of these 22 conversations
right,
is coming back to yourself, knowing yourself and the possibilities.
right,
How many layers are there? Like, don't even bother asking the question because all of them is probably the
yeah,
answer, plus some. Like you're not going to get to the end of that, but just damn, how many can I get through? I got work to do because I want to know what's on the next layer, or I want to know what's
right,
on the layer after that. Like this is um this is literally a mission in life to
yeah,
know as much as possible. I don't mean knowledge per se, but to
right,
understand,
yes,
to be, and to realize all of those layers, or as many as one can. But holy smokes, this whole
yeah,
thing opened up. Just like, well, fuck, that's a lot.
yeah. Well, that's the thing, right?
Whew.
And I think part of I understand now why the me doing the summit worked out the way it did. Because if I hadn't done it in a compressed time, I wouldn't have hit the same level of rage to hit that alignment.
Aha.
And so, because now Lilith doesn't care anymore, she's like, whatever, just like, like I said, it's not a critique of what you're saying, but it's a new level of understanding in that the rage didn't hit enough. The rage needed to be ragier. It's always fun to have
Yeah,
those words.
but I love that's what you got out of it
Yeah,
because you're right. And the thing is, none of us could get there.
right,
We could kind of acknowledge it, express it, but we couldn't tap into it.
right,
And because nobody knows what happens when you do. And that's the really important part is what happens when you tap into that. And for women, we're told you're unstable, you're hysterical, you're over emotional, da da da. This is the narrative that you have to work through to even consider tapping into it. And then there's the massive unknown of this is a huge
right.
force. What happens when I get there? Eek, right?
Well, what I was going to say, right, is that women have to understand their rage. Rage isn't just a question of your adrenaline kicks in and you start acting wildly, which is how most people view rage. No, rage is that I'm going to use this word. It's like it's heavily loaded, but it approaches the idea that I want. It's that righteous rage, not that fake righteous rage that you see, used, but the actual rage where it's like when you get that calm, you're that calm in the middle of the storm there,
Mm-hmm.
and everything like at a moment's notice you can just unleash hell, but you
Yeah,
have control over it, not because you're commanding it, you're just in tune with it, and you have clarity in your rage. That's what was needed. That clarity in rage.
I'm hearing a retreat coming up. I have no idea what form that would take, but I have a feeling that there's something there that needs to be
Right.
available.
Well, that clarity, that
Uh,
rage, that's I can't let it go at the moment. It's that clarity that rage brings. That
uh-huh.
thing, because rage, it's I'm gonna use this wording, its gift to you is to let you act without
Yes,
distraction.
yes, no, it absolutely is. And I mean, yeah, it's fuel. It truly is. And I have that awareness that it
Right.
is. But even though I did all 22 conversations,
Right.
I couldn't tap into it fully, and I knew it. I knew it as we were in
Hmm.
process. And I'm just like, that's important. It's really important. And
Right.
it also highlighted how far away we are from being able to tap into that, to be with it. Because,
Right.
you know, as kids, we're taught not to be with our emotions.
Well,
You
that's what
know,
I was
oh,
gonna say.
I'm
There's
upset.
no,
I'm sad. Here, have a
yeah,
cookie, you know?
like anger. Part of it helped, and I told the story before. I had a friend who had a like could get mad like at the drop of a hat, and people use that against him when he was drinking. To like, and they
Right,
mess around. And like I said, and he had come to me and we were talking about it, and I said, your anger is not your problem. Your anger is a tool that lets you get things done. It's letting it control you or letting other people control your rage. That's the problem. In
right.
your own hands, with what you needed to do, your rage is a gift, right? And this is where things need to be. The rage has is for the divine feminine to ascend, it needs to hit that rage, but it
Mm.
needs to not be a victim of that rage.
Yes,
It
agreed.
needs to have that clarity in the rage and then be able to act on it. Because if
Agreed.
there's one thing that men understand, it's when someone is in that clarity of rage. It's intuitive. It's not, you can't sit down with a bunch of guys and ask them about it because a lot of them are just going to say stupid shit. But we all intuitively understand that rage, that moment of clarity in the rage.
Hmm.
And that's where, if you ever want to win, if women want to win the respect of men, it's you also have to understand that clarity of rage.
I don't know that respect of men is high on the list, especially
No,
right now, but
but it's a tool you can put in your toolbox. Is that understanding
but
that clarity of rage as women because that's what's going to let you access.
yeah, that is the key. I mean, you're nailing it right there. That is absolutely the key. And I fully agree with you. What I found during that
Mm-hmm.
summit was not only could we not quite get
Right.
there, close but no
Mm-hmm.
cigar, but I also spoke to a few women beforehand, and I was talking to them about the summit, and from a few people, I got the response of, "Oh, well, no, I don't get angry. I don't have any anger."
Yeah.
And that kind of stopped me in my tracks. And I'm looking at this person again, having known them for 3 decades. I'm looking at them again and saying, "You don't, do you? Wow, how dissociated are you?"
There's
When
probably at
because
least
you
one person who knows they have anger.
it
Yeah.
yes, but I mean, everybody has anger. So if you
Yeah.
can't contact it, if you can't even be aware of it, let alone tap in to express it, like if you feel, oh no, I don't have anger, then and I had a conversation with somebody just yesterday actually, who she's in a terrible situation and she's very sort of sad and victimy
Mm.
about it. And I was like, yeah, but no, get angry, get mad, because that's where you'll be able to take action from. And she just looked at me and said, but I don't get mad. You shitting me, right?
Mm.
Like you've got all this going on and you're not mad. I'm mad, and it's not even happening to me. But
Yeah.
no, she's so dissociated from that feeling that she dare not acknowledge it. And I've
Right.
come across a few women like this when talking about the summit. They just looked at me blankly and said, "But I don't get angry. I don't have any anger."
I'll say it's been my experience that when people say that, be it men or women, but I've noticed this mostly in women, but it's not unique to women. You don't think you're angry, but there's someone who knows you're angry because you let them know either in your actions or your words, and then you kind of just put it out of your mind.
Well, I've known her for
Yeah.
a long time, and I can say
Yeah.
she's been in some situations where anger would be absolutely
Or
warranted.
she's taking the anger out on herself.
Potentially so, or
Like I
just
said,
so
someone knows,
dissociated,
even if
or
she's not
so
admitting it.
dissociated from it,
Yeah.
though, that it's not allowed in. And I
Right.
think that's what happens a lot is just, I can't have that because I'm not safe to be angry.
Right.
I can't express that. And I know both women that I'm thinking of right now, both have been in very unsafe
Right.
situations where if they could not express anger or it would be a
Mm.
very poor outcome. And now they're at the point where they just don't know they have it. They no
Right.
longer accept or acknowledge that anger is part of the deal. And
I'm going to
that
take a different tact here.
is so far
Yeah.
away from where we need to
Yeah.
be.
Right. If you do research on haunted houses, even possessions and stuff like that, inevitably you're going to come across this story. And I usually see it in women. The haunting happens, the woman doesn't want to deal with it, her rage flies, and there's never a spirit in the house again. She basically tells the spirit to fuck off and get the hell out because I ain't putting up with your bullshit in a fit of anger, and it usually works. It's the most
Oh,
effective form of exorcism that I get from looking at that kind of stuff.
okay. Well, I'll have to take your word for it on that one because this is not in my
Yeah.
knowledge repertoire. But
It's
I did
basically
find,
setting a boundary, a very, very strong boundary.
and this is something that again, women especially, but not
Yeah.
only, are taught very early on. You don't get to have boundaries. You know, grandma wants a hug, you go give grandma a hug.
Yeah.
This you need to sit on Santa's lap because I said so. You get to do that whether you want to or not. You don't have boundaries that are acceptable because when you say no, you're being defiant. When you get mad, you're being oppositional. You
Right.
know, all of these things get labeled. And let's just go to the oppositional for a brief moment
Mm-hmm.
here,
Yeah.
because this is something that's been pissing me off ever since it first became a thing.
Right.
So in the DSM, the
Right.
diagnostic manual that,
The book whose name I keep forgetting. Yes.
everybody thinks it's the be all and end all. It's actually a book written by a group of doctors who come to a consensus, and it's for the insurance companies.
Mm.
I cannot tell. Actually, I did tap into my rage the day I discovered
Mm.
that. I was beyond livid and completely lost the plot in front of a whole bunch of people who did actually call me out for it and say, "You're being hysterical." But no, because countries all around the world think the DSM actually means something, and it fucking doesn't. It's an insurance company manual.
Well,
That
that's
is
what I was going to
angering.
say. I think it act. I read a bunch of books at the same time, so I'm trying to figure it out. But I think the book actually says in the preface that it kind of gives a bit of a description. It doesn't specifically say work for insurance companies, but it does say that you have to take into consideration that politics affects what's
How
considered a
many people
diagnostic.
read that bit?
Yeah.
However, the DSM, let's stick with
Yeah.
that for a minute because
Right.
it is infuriating and it changes, right? Depending on the whims and will
Well, yes.
of political organizations, among
Hmm.
other things. So you have Asperger's as a diagnosis
Hmm.
for a while, and then, uh-oh, Hans Asperger's, bad dude,
Yeah.
Nazi, yada, yada. You take the name away.
Yeah.
Never mind that a whole group of people who actually fit those characteristics no longer have their own section.
Right.
So but they ought to, right? Because there is a difference between autism and Asperger's.
Yeah.
I can tell you this from experience. There is a significant difference. Anyway, be that as it may, in the DSM, there is this condition called oppositional defiant
Right.
disorder.
Yeah.
And this changes to borderline personality disorder when you hit 18. What
Hmm.
kind of condition changes on your
Yes.
birthday? First
Right.
of all, put that in the fuck bucket and set fire to it because that is obviously twaddle. But listen to the wording, listen to the name. So, what you have is a kid, because it's,
Hmm.
up to their birthday. You have a kid who is fighting, right? They are fighting verbally, possibly physically, but they are pushing back and pushing away. Oppositional, right?
Right.
Defiant. Oh, now there's a word. Slap the label defiant on somebody's forehead, and
Yeah.
they are in a world of trouble, right? They are
Hmm.
defying authority. Disorder. There's something wrong with you, kid. So you have three of the worst words you can slap on somebody's forehead: oppositional, defiant, and disorder.
Yep.
And the reality is that when you have somebody in front of you with an ODD diagnosis, what you're looking at is a traumatized kid, a,
Yes.
typically a traumatized teen who is responding to the world around them, to the environment that traumatized them in a perfectly sensible, normal, natural way, and they are labeled oppositional defiance.
Yep.
So instead of looking at the adults who traumatized them, because this will often come from
Hmm.
sexual abuse, for example, so instead of looking at the adults who did the traumatizing and saying, excuse me, the fuck, you need to make some
Right.
reparations here, you got a problem, jail, and all the rest of it. No, no, no. The adults are left out of the equation, and their kid gets a label slapped on them that follows them through life. And it becomes borderline personality disorder,
Right.
which means you don't have good control over your temper and you're going to be unpredictable and you could be
Right.
loving 1 minute and fighting the next. It's called trauma response,
Yep.
people.
Hmm.
And this, oh my God, when I first came across that, I absolutely tapped into my rage. I was beside myself because it's so unfair. And when you look at things like the DSM, kids are blamed for so much of what's happening with them. And it
Yep.
is not the kids. It is not the kids. You show me a kid with oppositional defiant disorder, and I will show you someone that's grown up in a completely fucked up environment. And I would like
Yeah.
to talk to the adults involved. And I'd like to slap them with a baseball bat because I'm pretty damn sure they did things.
Yeah.
So, yeah, damn straight. Don't
Yeah.
tell me oppositional defiant disorder is the fault of the kid.
Yeah. It's funny. I remember I had at the same time I was reading another book called Scapegoat, and it was a book about just to sum it up is basically the problem child is the hero of the family because the problem child is the one that is the avatar of all the issues in the family, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
So yeah, it almost goes to like if you bring your problem child in, you're basically confessing to something,
Uh-huh.
yeah,
And
whether you realize it or not.
you blame the problem
Yeah,
child for being the problem.
yeah,
But the problem child is actually the mirror for everything
hmm,
you did to them and everything they've experienced growing up. So,
yes. The problem
oh,
child is the one who
yeah.
isn't putting up with your shit.
And they're reflecting it back to you.
Yeah,
So, yaha. Oh, I tell you what, when I come
mm,
across somebody with ODD, it's like, let me just talk to that family. And I have yet to find a case where it hasn't been true. I have not found one yet, and I have worked with a number of kids with labeled ODD.
mm,
They don't have a disorder. Their family has a disorder.
yeah. Oh, absolutely. It's funny because I do that too. Sometimes I'll come across someone and I'll go, "Where's your family? Who are your parents?" Because I have to go beat the shit out of them right now. Because sometimes I'll see behavior and I'm like, okay, you're being way too much of an asshole for this to be natural. Point out your parents to me because I gotta go beat the shit out of them.
Right?
No one gets into the world behaving like this unless someone did something to them.
This, yeah, and behavior is my thing.
Yeah.
So I can see where a behavior comes in because it's been reinforced. Like when you've got an adult who's into drama, for example. Yeah. What you're looking at with an adult whose life is perpetually lurching from one
Mm-hmm.
disaster to the next, and it's all, high drama, soap opera
Right.
worthy, that is a person who, as a kid, would tantrum to get what they wanted, and one of two outcomes. Either they were ignored anyway, and so
Right.
they tantrumed harder, or they would get what they wanted and continue to tantrum because it works. Now, that might sound like either way you're in trouble, but no, there is a middle path. Thank you, Buddha. There is a middle
Mm-hmm.
path, which is where you teach that child how to get access to what they want
Right.
in a functional way without tantruming. You teach them how to not tantrum and how to communicate. So when that middle part doesn't happen, you either get someone who's neglected and ignored, and so they tantrum loudly because why not? Okay, that's how, if I do it long enough, somebody will pay attention. Or you get the one who tantrumed and got what they wanted, And so now they're utterly obnoxious and you can't hang out with them because they're just bratty. They're
Right.
bratty adults. And they were taught that way. They learned that that's what works. So that's not necessarily trauma in the way we would think of big T trauma,
Right.
but you've also got the person who just, they had such a shitty time that they don't actually know what good looks like.
Right. Well, and
And
that's
you can't expect them to
yeah.
manufacture it.
I have this discussion sometimes with people because people will say, "Wow, look at this person doing this," and I'm like, "Listen, I know this person's background, and how would they know better?" Like,
Uh-huh. It's very, very often the case. Yeah.
and it's
So,
weird because people will say it. Not meaning to cut you off, but they'll say it like, "Well, look, they're around us, they're okay." I go, "Yeah, but they're just waiting for the other shoe to drop because of the way things went for them. Around you things are good, but they don't know when you're going to turn, and that's what they're waiting for. That's
right,
why they're not acting the way you think they should be acting."
right. And you'll find that when somebody's got borderline personality disorder, for example, and again, fucking word disorder. No,
Mm-hmm.
it's actually symptomatic of their life experience. But that person doesn't know, are you gonna still be a decent human being in half an hour? Are
Yeah.
you gonna are you gonna suddenly do something so bad to me that I wish I wasn't alive? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I
Are you
don't
lulling me,
know.
making me vulnerable to the situation that's coming?
Exactly. Like, okay, you're being nice to me. Why?
Yeah.
What's wrong?
Yeah.
Right? Like, oh, this good thing happened. Shit, what's coming?
Mm-hmm.
And that degree of hypervigilance and always looking for the next problem to come because you know it's likely to, and you don't want to be blindsided.
Right.
How do you expect that person to function in life? But we slap labels on them, including the word disorder, and
Mm-hmm.
everybody says, oh, that one has a problem, give them some medication. Oh, that one, they have this, give them more meds. And it's like, no, actually, fuck you. It's everybody else in the environment that's the problem. Give them the goddamn meds. You
Yeah.
know, whew. I could totally baseball bat a whole bunch of people on that subject. And I'd like to
Yeah.
get into the room with the people who do the DSM because I have a lot of smacking to do.
Yeah.
They
Like I
do
said, yeah.
things that they cause people to respond in particular ways to certain diagnoses. It's manipulative. It's not at all helpful. It's not at all fair. And the poor bugger who gets thus labeled now has a couple of options. One is they live to the label, right? If you tell somebody they're stupid long enough, they'll be
Mm-hmm.
stupid. Or, you just alter their life. You alter
Yeah.
their trajectory when you slap a label on their forehead. I've had this conversation with many parents where they'll say, "Oh, he's Georgie. He's autistic." I'm like, "Why would you do that?
Yeah.
Why are you introducing this person and labeling them? Do you say, hey, there's Joe and he's diabetic? Like, I
Yeah.
would hope not. So what is this? Why do we do this? Oh, well,
Yeah.
in case any odd behavior comes up. Again, you are putting your kid or this person who's with you, you are putting them at a disadvantage so that a complete stranger doesn't think badly of you.
Right. Yeah.
Well, you can take that notion and go sit on it and set fire to it because that's a disgrace as far as I'm concerned. As you can tell, and tap into something on this subject. I'm
Yeah.
really mad about it.
Yeah. It's interesting because, like I said, I've said this before in the podcast. Like, I'm dyslexic, but I wasn't told I was dyslexic. I was just brought. They said, "Okay, you got to do this. You got to do this. You got to do this." 'Cause- And I didn't know. I didn't know until someone was explaining it, like when I was older, and I'm like, "Holy shit! Yeah, like I went through that. What are you talking about?" Well, then you're dyslexic. Don't worry about it. But the thing is, I was an avid reader. On
Mhm.
a good day, I could polish a whole book. Like, you know, yeah, I had to go back sometimes because it was like, oh no, I can't. I obviously misunderstood something, or I obviously didn't read that correctly. But I mean, I read. It never stopped me from reading. Like, but I always hear people like that's why I didn't realize I had it because I always hear, wow, people you have dyslexia, you don't really read and stuff like that because it's hard. And I'm like, I read all the time. What are you talking about? I know there's things I had to
Again,
watch for, but like,
again, it's the
yeah,
judgmentalness, of the whole situation. And for anybody listening who says, well, what are you supposed to do then?
Mm.
Well, okay, here's the thing. How about you learn about what kind of help is available and you work with the help without running to the label every 10 minutes?
Right.
You need the label for the insurance companies,
Yeah.
curse them, but you don't need it for any other purpose at all. And nobody else ever needs to hear it.
Well, that's
It
the
makes
thing. Like,
no useful difference.
right,
Dan Aykroyd has Asperger's,
right.
right?
I can see
Now,
that.
for some people, this is going to be the first time that they
Mm.
hear that. But if Dan Aykroyd wasn't the way he is, we don't get Ghostbusters.
Right,
So, is that a disability? Is that something he should feel less than because of it?
right.
But Bill Murray had to go to bat for him when
Mm.
people said, this guy's weird and he's this, and this. Bill Murray said, no, actually, he's brilliant and,
Mm.
shut up and record the movie. Um,
Well, yeah, that brings up a whole other conversation, actually.
but it's
Um,
judgmental, right? It's the
yeah,
whole, you have a label and therefore.
because this is like I went through a period of time. There were movies coming out like A Beautiful Mind and stuff like that, where it's like you have these really brilliant people, but yet they're somehow really messed up. And I'm like, are they actually messed up though? Like,
Well,
like I
I
didn't
think
see A
it's,
Beautiful Mind because there was that it was a trend at the time. Like, if you were brilliant, you were fucked in the head somehow. And I was kind of like, yeah, I'm not here for
people
this
love
trend.
that.
And
But people love that because it makes them
yeah,
feel better about being dumb.
right. But like even now, like especially with all the epiphanies I'm hitting, I'm like, I'm sure someone would probably sit down with me and want to put diagnoses on me, but I'm like, I'm not having a problem. I'm just understanding something, and you're not there yet, or you don't have the same capacity as me to see it, but yet because you don't have it, and maybe your circle of friends don't have it, so because I don't match that, I'm the problem.
Exactly.
But
That, you have just
yeah,
coined it perfectly. That is what happens through all the things we've been discussing now.
right.
And it's the thing where I don't understand you, I'm going to slap a label on your head.
Hmm. Right,
And people do some really poor things to other people based on labels. I was working with one kid who the teacher said he cannot come in the classroom until you stop his stimming behavior. Stimming, for the uninitiated, is
right.
stimulating, self-stimulatory, and it's in this particular kid's case, he would flap his hands really
Yeah.
quickly,
Hmm.
and maybe he would spin. And she said he had to stop doing that. And I said, no, he does not. You need to find him a space in the classroom where he can do that safely
Yeah.
because this is him self-regulating. His
Right.
emotions become so intense and the stress and all the rest of it builds up to such an intensity. He needs an outlet. That is it. I'm
Yes.
not taking that away from him. And she would not let him in the classroom.
Yeah. One of my nephews went through that too, because he would do the flapping thing.
Well, it's
Yeah.
self-regulating.
Yeah.
Some people click pens, others wave their leg around. Some might twirl their
Yeah.
hair or chew their fingernails.
Although,
But people have got things they do, and
yeah.
those are all acceptable. Flapping
Although
your hands is very
I
visible.
find because I was trying to figure it out and I tried it and it's like I find that very unpleasant. This because it starts to hurt after a while. The
Ah,
flapping of
you're not
the
doing it right. You just have to let your
obviously,
wrists
yeah,
go loose. Let your wrists be loose and just flap your hands.
yeah.
It
Because
doesn't
I
hurt.
figured I might as well try to understand it rather than because fighting it. I had long since learned fighting it doesn't do anything for you. Your body's doing it for a reason. Like I always tell people, it's like even when someone has like a delusion, that delusion is cluing you into all kinds of stuff.
The delusion, again, it's
And the
something that
delusion is
you
your
just,
brain trying to get back to normal. Like,
well, depending on the delusion,
yeah,
it's their experience.
yeah,
Just because it's yours doesn't mean it's not valid in some way.
right,
Like the issue is only if the delusion causes them to do things that harm other
right.
people. Then you have an issue. Anything short of that, you don't have an
Hmm.
issue. You don't need to have an issue. You can mind your own goddamn business and let them
Yeah,
do their thing. But if you're looking at somebody who works with witchcraft, who does magic,
right.
who's spiritual, they get labeled all the time, but we
Mhm.
get labeled all the time, right? Oh, you're one of them, are you? Oh,
Mhm.
so you believe all that stuff, do you? But tell me again how your invisible guy sits on a throne on top of the clouds. I'm
Yeah,
listening. You know, try and convince me about all the things. but I'm the delusional one.
Yeah.
We do this. This is where, again, bringing it back to Lady Saphira,
Hmm.
she's just sitting there quiet in the
Yeah.
middle of all of this, not buying into any of it. Like she can just
Yeah.
see, uh-huh, uh-huh. Yeah, okay, and what do you need? What are you here for? Like none of it matters. I
Yeah.
love the way she just cuts through all of the noise. It's
Yeah.
effortless. Obviously, it's not effortless in that she had to learn to be that way.
Yes.
But wow, wow. I'm so impressed.
Yeah. There's power in making space.
Yeah. And there's also a preservation of your own energy.
Well, because I had labeled it at first when we were talking about Babylon. I had labeled it submitting, but I think it's making space is the better word because you're not
Allowing.
submitting to power. You're not submitting
Allowing
your
is
power. You're making a
allowing is
space.
better
Yeah.
than
Yes.
allowing is better than submitting, I think, in
Yes.
this case.
Yeah.
Because it's a choice.
Right. Because I was trying to figure out because like I know it wasn't expressing what I wanted because you are retaining a certain amount of power. Worst case scenario, you're taking a gamble, but really what you're doing is you are actually in control in a way that you don't that people tend not to understand. And I don't even want to put it as a matter of control. You're in the right place at the right time, doing the right thing, and some words have to change. Some words, some new vocabulary, some.
Clarity is a good word in
Yeah.
there because if you are simply allowing people to be as they are, to
Right.
show up how they are, and you're not judging them based on how they look, how they
Right.
walk, how they talk, their age, or whatever else, you're just accepting and allowing them, then you're also not, your judgment isn't clouded by
Right.
what you expect to see, or by what you want to see, or by
Hmm.
what you think you don't like that you see.
Yeah.
So the gamble, you mentioned taking a gamble. I think it's more of a gamble if you're not in that space
Yes.
because you can't see clearly if you're
Yeah.
not
That's why I said worst case
absolutely
scenario is
allowing.
taking a gamble. Yeah.
Right. But you're not fully
Right.
non-judgmental if it's a gamble because you're counting on something,
Yes.
either being or not being.
Hmm.
Whereas listening to her and sort of just being
Yes.
with her during those conversations, it was like, oh, okay. No, she is literally just not buying into any of it. Not not going
Yeah.
there with any of the assessments, judgments, ideas, preconceived notions about people. It's just here is a human. Let me see what they are. What do
Yeah.
they need? Where are they coming from? And she's preserving her energy there
Yeah. Yes.
and her clarity.
Yeah. And I want to say, like, because I want to point this out again, not a critique, and this has nothing to do with you specifically, but it is. I don't know if it was Roxanne. Who was it? The one she was like, her too. She was sitting there like as if she was floating above it all. Every time something came up, she would just kind of do an acknowledgement and release it to the wind or whatever.
Ah, okay.
Is it
So she does
Roxanne?
theta healing. Yeah,
Yeah.
Roxanne.
But I found she was out, or to me, it seemed like she was out of flow with what was happening. It was kind of like the too quick to not quite. It felt like she didn't quite let it simmer.
Hmm.
That was from my perspective. Like you seemed pretty mellow in that one.
I've known her for a while,
Yeah,
and I know how. I've also studied theta healing, so
yeah,
I know how that works. Um, Not everybody likes it, and it's you have to be in a certain
yeah.
space to be
Well, that's what I was
able to
gonna
go
say.
with it.
It like to me, for me, from listening to it, it kind of felt like it was moving too quickly.
Hmm. You should hear her when she's going fast.
Yeah,
But it is one of those things where if you are in sync,
yeah,
it's fine.
yeah. I was
But
gonna say
it's
because
not.
you would seem like you guys seemed in sync or something like that. I just know for me, I was like, okay, hold on a second. I just need two more steps. I just need two more beats before I can grab this right
Uh-huh.
now. You know?
and that was part of the summit was,
Yeah.
there's different paths for different
Yes.
people, and some things will resonate and some things
Right.
won't. And I liked that not everything was congruent with the rest kind of thing, because
Yeah.
there's all different things coming up for people, and it's just what do you need right now and what do you need later. In fact,
Yeah.
I'm really hoping that people who have signed up go for the $47 deal of
Mm.
having access ongoing for
Right.
those videos, because there's some in there that you're going to want to go back to
Yes.
at different times,
Yeah.
because they'll give you different things at different times.
Right. Yeah. Because I was
And
doing it under, I was like trying to get everything done. So,
uh-huh.
but it
But
was,
you got to go back, right? So
yeah,
you just got to
I'm going to
listen to
have
them
to.
again.
I have to. But it's funny, I'm noticing the pattern in this episode. Half of it is about debriefing from the doing from the summit, and then the other half is there's a new angle to, or not a new angle. There's a new we're crossing a threshold into something new, and part of it is needing that rage to hit that clarity.
I think Summit was a part of that.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a process that you and I had the most involvement with out of
Right.
anybody,
Yeah.
because you went through all the episodes and I
True.
recorded all of the
Yeah.
episodes. So nobody else has quite that level at this
Right.
moment anyway. But it
Yeah.
was a lot, and there was a
We
lot of
both had to be present
transformation
for the
going on.
whole thing because I had to look for quality
Ideally,
control, and you had to.
yeah. But being present for the whole
Mm.
thing meant it just meant so much. Like
Yeah.
I really am honored by the experience,
Yeah.
because I got to learn so much from so many people. Did I agree with everything I heard? No, I don't think I did, probably. I don't really remember anything leaping out as bothering me, but I didn't have to. That's the thing.
No.
That wasn't the point of it, but I was open to hearing what people had to say, and
Yeah.
perspectives I loved the different perspectives.
And it's
And
funny
then,
because
oh, and you heard Abigail,
yes,
who was
Abigail is the one. She's the indigenous woman,
yes,
right? Yeah.
phenomenal
Yeah.
storyteller and
Yeah.
absolute, one hell of an experience.
Yeah.
And she's really been through a whole lot. And she's out the other side. She also does
Yeah.
human design.
Yeah.
But she adds her flavor to it like I do with mine. Um, but she really brought something, and she was a fairly late addition to the summit. But I'm really glad she joined in, because her voice was awesome. Like she
Yeah.
really brought something. Yeah, there's just so much there.
Yeah. All right. So that's about that. And then,
Yeah, I think
yeah,
maybe.
for it, but so what I was going to say, even I lost it for a second there. I'm
Mm.
starting to get a grasp on the Great Mutation.
Okay.
So, who was it that was talking about the emotional center there, the
Oh,
spleen?
Jen.
Yeah. So when I was listening to the Jen, I was starting to kind of get cluing into it a bit more, but I'm cluing into it more to my reaction to stuff. Because if you look at how we are in this podcast, like I said earlier, and you look at how the summit went, the great mutation is going to be about understanding things from an emotional perspective, which I could always verbalize to begin with. But I'm starting to understand the podcast from this perspective, and I'm starting to understand, and I that was my understanding that I developed through listening to the summit was it's not the words being used, but it's the emotions being conveyed, and that's what's telling the story. And that's why also why I came up with that there wasn't enough rage, because it was like now I'm expecting a certain amount of rage here. This is what it should be building up. But I think
Uh-huh.
I'm starting to get a grasp on what the great mutation is, in that it's not going to be it's not going to be the words you choose, even though wordplay is I part of my fun, but it's the conveyed emotions, which I've always worked on anyways. But I'm not an emotional authority, I'm a sacral authority. But yeah, so I guess for the listeners, since it's next year and that's
Uh-huh.
the way things are heading, maybe it's time to start reacquainting yourself with emotions and understanding them.
Oh,
how they are as a communication method too.
well, your
Right.
emotions influence your decisions
Yes.
without question. And the thing with human design, and I mentioned this in the recording, so you'll have already heard this bit, but um, the thing with making decisions from other people's emotions that your undefined center
Mm.
absorbs,
Right.
you can't make a good decision when it's not your emotion because it's not based on how you feel about things. And we are taught from young that, don't pay attention to your emotions. That's just how you feel, in quotes.
Yeah.
But, does it make sense? Is it common sense? Who did you hear that from? It's all head language. It's
Yes.
all externally sourced, is how people want you to make your decisions, how you're taught to make them. But the truth is, a good decision when you make one
Right.
if you tune in,
Yes.
if you allow yourself to tune in. And what we need is people to get their heads out of their asses, stop using their heads, which are full of shit right now because it's bit in their ass. But anyway,
Yeah.
like literally stop doing all of that and tap into what's your body saying? What are your emotions saying? How do you feel about that? And with the emotional center, defined or otherwise, there is a wave to ride of
Right.
everything's terrible, everything's
Mm.
great. Once you've got all the perspectives, now you have more information to make a decision. And you need to be sure that this is your emotional wave you're riding and you're not carrying other people's stuff.
Right.
This is where human design becomes really important to know.
Yes. That conversation made me think about something. I only have three defined centers.
Okay.
So
Throat, sacral. What was the other one?
that's what I'm looking up right now.
Throat, sacral, can't remember.
So
Spleen?
throat, sacral, and the identity center.
Oh, the G. Okay.
Yeah. Did you
Throat, sacral, G.
just a
So you're
straight
in a
line
straight
down the
line.
bottom, three of them,
Mhm. Right.
all nicely connected because I'm a single definition.
Okay. So that gives you the how.
Right.
Your solar plexus gives you the when with
Right.
decision making. But you have to be sure that you're not carrying other people's crap when you make those decisions.
That's what it made me wonder because all the talk about the emotional center being developed in that and the coming of, the great mutation, I was like, I have a lot of undefined stuff. So what am I absorbing?
Well,
Yeah.
everything, like
Yeah.
all the things in those areas, but it's not so absorbing other people's energy.
Right.
For the listener, first of all, this doesn't mean you're taking away from anyone. They have
Right.
exactly what they have. You're not taking anything,
Mm.
but you are absorbing from them and
Hmm.
you amplify it. So here's the thing. For example, with the crown, the center at the very top of the chart,
Right.
when that one is white, it's undefined, or there's no gates at all and it's open. What happens is you're absorbing influence and ideas and sort of the pressure to think. You're absorbing it from other people, from
Yeah.
your environment. But the fantastic news with that is you can curate your environment to give you the kind of input you want. And it can inspire new ideas, new ways of thinking, new projections in life. You can use
Yeah.
that to your advantage because you know it's there,
Yeah. I was
right?
gonna say
And
yeah, because that has no gates or anything on me.
right, so
Okay.
yours is
Yeah.
open
Yeah.
completely, which means all bets are off, right?
Right.
And whatever so the people you hang out with will literally define how you think.
Right.
So now the
Well,
mind is where you're doing your thinking, but stay
yeah.
with me for a second because if that is undefined and your ajna is undefined as well, your mind.
Right.
So you are literally taking in what the people around you are putting out. Now you can look at it and say, is that mine? Do I like it? Do I want it? Nope, I'll get rid of it. And you don't
Yeah.
have to keep it, but you can access it and use it if you like it.
Right.
So that's the difference with the undefined centers
Yeah.
is it's open to possibilities.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of very cool stuff about being undefined. When you're defined, though, it's fixed and constant. meaning you can rely on that energy being there. And it's pretty, you know, it's something you recognize as being you. There's less conditioning happening there.
Right.
It doesn't mean none, but it typically means
Right.
there'll be less because it's not open, not available for that.
Right.
Um, but there's pros and cons, right, to having a mix of things. If you're a reflector, you don't have anything defined, and now you've got a big job in life. That's a tough one. I've worked with 5 reflectors over the years, and that's a big number because it's 1% of the world's population,
Yeah.
and it's very tough for a reflector because they're changing all the time, and how they feel about things changes all the time, and they have to take it's a 28 day, a lunar cycle, to make a big decision. At least one of them. It will
Right.
often take two or three. If you're making a decision about a relationship
Mm.
or a house move or a job, that does not come quickly to that person.
Yeah.
But what all of these designs, as we're talking about them, what
Mm.
they all have in common is not believing everything you think,
Right.
not using the thought processes to make your decisions. Because, as I'm very fond of saying, you can have a beautifully logical
Mm.
path where one step in front of the other makes absolute sense. It's a work of art, it looks beautiful, but it takes you to a swamp instead of the
Yep.
beach.
Yep.
It's still logical, it still got you there. It's just there isn't where you wanted to be. That's what happens when you use your head. It
Yep.
might sound good, it might look good, you may get approval of other people, but you didn't want to be in a swamp. And now here you are,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
You wanted the beach. Or
Yeah.
maybe you wanted the swamp and you didn't want the beach and you got to the beach. Like either way, point is, it's not something to rely on.
Right.
It can be a tool to use, but your decisions have to come from elsewhere. And
Yep.
the thing with having an undefined spleen or an open spleen, either way,
Mm.
um, that's the center of fear and awareness, as well as intuition and your immune system.
Right.
So, with that center undefined, if you're getting fearful about something and it comes up every time you hang out with this person,
Right.
pretty good idea what they got going on. Now, it could be one of the gates that you have defined, but if there's something that keeps coming up whenever you talk to this particular person,
Mm.
you now know something about their fears because you're
Yeah.
feeling them for them, with them.
Yep.
But it's not yours, so you don't have to act on that, right? You don't have
Mm.
to let that limit you or alter your trajectory. You just need to be mindful of when you hang out with that person,
Yes.
right? Just like if you're with somebody, we were talking, we're not going to mention names now, but
Mm.
we were talking about somebody who's typically very charismatic
Right.
earlier on. And that person can cause people to make a lot of decisions based on their charisma, which is
Right.
what charismatic people tend to do.
Yes.
Okay, it may sound good. You bought what was being sold, but did you take time to ride that wave and really consider all the pros and cons? Did you feel into really how do I feel about this? Or are you just going with the ride that you're being put on with their charisma? And
Right.
and there's a world of difference because later you're going to be convincing yourself that it was a good move because we don't like to realize we just made a dumb move, typically, right?
Yep.
And when someone's charismatic, you want to believe them. You want to be one of those people who's in with the in crowd.
I laugh because not developed an aversion to the in crowd, but
Well,
yeah.
yeah, skepticism about the in crowd has
Yeah.
that. Hmm. Yeah, because what do you have to do to be in with the in crowd?
Yeah.
I'm not very I don't know, the in crowd covers an awful lot of uh ideology that I do not espouse.
Mm.
moment. I'm not in with anybody's in crowd, I don't think. Um, Nor do I have the time or energy to think about that, really.
Yeah. All right, I got nothing left.
Okay, well, I'm good. I think we covered a lot, and
We
that
did.
was that was very cool to go over the experience of the summit because,
Yeah.
between us, we've both just gone through like 45 hours of 46 hours of conversation.
Yeah.
Your perspective, my perspective, and I think that was really valuable.
Yeah. Well, and now it informed me of what's coming next for the podcast, anyways, because I don't completely know it, but I get the sense of it, and it follows on the rage. It follows on that clarity of rage. It's You can't see me. I'm just doing some hand gestures. It's the what dream? No, that's not the word. I'm getting like massively blocked on that one. We'll just go with the clarity of rage and move forward from there, and let the episodes clear it out.
Okay, I like it.
Yeah.
I'm here for it.
All right.
He is Daniel
Yep.
Dubois.
And she's Michaela Stone. Until next time.
À la prochaine.